You think your choices are yours, but most of them were decided long before you became aware of them. Imagine you are standing in a crowded grocery store aisle. You reach for a specific brand of cereal, the one in the bright blue box. You feel a sense of agency, a quiet internal nod that says, "I want this one today." But as your fingers wrap around the cardboard, you don't feel the microscopic electrical storm that surged through your motor cortex nearly half a second before you decided to move. You don't see the ghost of a commercial you watched 3 years ago, or the subtle way the shelf height was calibrated to meet your eyeline perfectly. You are the last person to know what you're doing. You probably think your choices are yours, but your brain made most of them long before you noticed. It's a ghost in the machine, a silent partner that handles the heavy lifting while letting you take all the credit. You are like the press secretary for a secretive government. Your only job is to stand at the podium and explain why the decisions you didn't make were actually brilliant ideas you've had all along. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me where you're watching from and what time your mind decided to question itself tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's step quietly into the hidden architecture of the human mind. To regain control, you must first accept a bruising blow to your ego. You are not the pilot of your own ship. You are at best a very confused navigator trying to read a map in the dark while the engine moves of its own accord. This is the user illusion. In the world of behavioral psychology, we often talk about the dual process theory, the idea that your mind is split into two distinct systems. System 1 is fast, instinctive, and emotional. It's the part of you that swerves the car when a deer jumps out or feels a surge of inexplicable dislike for a stranger. System 2 is slower, more deliberative, and logical. It's the part of you that does long division or tries to decide which insurance policy is actually the best value. The mainstream psychological fact you've likely heard is that System 1 is always running. It's your default setting. It operates on cognitive ease, seeking the path of least resistance. But here is the surprising hidden behavior insight. System 1 doesn't just suggest things to you, it actively filters your reality, so that System 2, the logical you, never even sees the alternatives. Your brain is a master of pre-attentive processing. It evaluates every sight, sound, and smell in your environment, discarding 99% of it before you ever have a conscious thought. You aren't choosing from a menu. You're choosing from the 1 or 2 items your subconscious decided to leave on the table. Maybe this is happening to you right now. You think you are listening to this because you find the topic interesting, but perhaps you're actually seeking a distraction from a lingering anxiety your brain hasn't let you name yet. Your mind is already weaving a narrative to justify why you're still here, sitting in the dark, listening to a voice talk about the hidden architecture of your thoughts. And the tension lies in the gap between the action and the awareness. In the 1980s, a researcher named Benjamin Libet conducted a famous experiment that still haunts the halls of philosophy. He asked participants to perform a simple task: flick their wrist whenever they felt the urge. By monitoring their brain activity, he discovered that a readiness potential, a specific spike in electrical activity, occurred in the brain several hundred milliseconds before the participant reported the conscious will to move. Psychologists still debate whether free will is an evolutionary necessity or merely a biological byproduct, a user interface designed to keep us from feeling like helpless observers of our own biology. If your brain is deciding to move your hand before you do, then what exactly is you? To regain control, you must stop identifying with the impulse and start identifying with the observer. Most people live their entire lives in a state of reactive automation. They feel an itch, they scratch it. They feel a spark of anger, they shout. They see a notification, they click. They are puppets who have mistaken their strings for muscles. The first way to regain control is to practice interrogating the impulse. This isn't about stopping the impulse. You can't stop System 1 from firing any more than you can stop your heart from beating. It's about creating a delay. It's about noticing the readiness potential before it becomes a movement. When you feel the urge to check your phone for the 20th time this hour, there is a split second where the urge exists, but the hand hasn't moved. That is the only place where freedom lives. In that micro moment, you have to ask, whose thought is this? Is it yours, or is it a residue of a dopamine loop designed by an engineer in Silicon Valley? Is it a genuine need, or is it your brain's attempt to escape the discomfort of a quiet room? We are masters of self-justification. If you do check your phone, your mind will instantly provide a reason. I was just checking the time, or I might have an important email. This is the coherence requirement. Your brain cannot stand the idea that it is doing things for no reason, so it manufactures reasons after the fact. To reclaim your brain, you have to become comfortable with the incoherence. You have to be willing to look at your own actions and say, I am doing this and I don't know why. This shatters the illusion of the press secretary. It forces System 2 to wake up and actually look at the machinery. But waking up is painful. It requires cognitive effort, and your brain is biologically programmed to avoid effort whenever possible. It would rather stay in a comfortable, predictable cage than deal with the exhaustion of being truly conscious. As we move deeper, remember that false certainty you felt at the beginning of this, the belief that you are the one in charge. That certainty is the primary tool your brain uses to keep you in line. It's a mental anesthesia, but the anesthesia is wearing off. You're starting to see the flicker in the peripheral vision of your own mind. You're starting to realize that the architecture isn't just around you, it is you. And if you want to change the building, you're going to have to get your hands dirty with the blueprints. But when you finally unroll those blueprints, you realize something quietly terrifying. The architect of your mind is a compulsive liar. You assume your inner monologue is a documentary of your life, recording the facts and feeding you rational motivations. It is not. It is a carefully edited propaganda film designed to make you look like the hero of a story that makes complete logical sense. This brings us to the second step of reclaiming your agency. You must learn to starve the narrative machine. In behavioral psychology, there is a concept known as the coherence requirement. The human mind harbors an absolute biological intolerance for absurdity. It abhors a vacuum of meaning. When you do something out of pure habit, hidden bias, or sudden emotional impulse, your conscious brain panics. It looks at the irrational action and immediately scrambles to draft a logical explanation. It weaves a cohesive story to convince you that you meant to do it all along. Remember the press secretary standing at the podium from earlier. This is their primary job damage control for your ego. If you impulse buy a shockingly expensive jacket, your inner press secretary doesn't say, "We bought this because a clever marketing algorithm exploited our deep-seated fear of social inadequacy." Instead, it steps to the microphone and smoothly announces, "We made this purchase because it is an investment piece. The fabric is durable, and we have been working hard lately." You believe the lie because it feels better than admitting you are a machine reacting to stimuli. A well-established mainstream psychological fact is the existence of the left brain interpreter. Decades ago, researchers working with split-brain patients, individuals whose brain hemispheres were surgically disconnected, discovered that if they silently instructed the right hemisphere to stand up and walk, the patient would comply. But when they asked the patient why they stood up, the talking left hemisphere, having no knowledge of the hidden command, didn't say, "I don't know." Instead, it instantly hallucinated a reason: "I needed to go get a drink of water." The patient genuinely believed this fabricated motive. Your brain does this to you every single day, seamlessly bridging the gap between your unconscious actions and your conscious identity. You snap at your partner, and your brain tells you it's because they were being unreasonable, not because your blood sugar is low. You procrastinate on a critical project, and your brain tells you it's because you work better under pressure, not because you are terrified of failing. Here is the surprising hidden behavior insight that makes this trap so dangerous. Your brain does not evaluate these stories based on factual accuracy. It evaluates them based on cognitive fluency. If a story is easy to process, if it confirms your existing biases, and if it removes the uncomfortable friction of cognitive dissonance, your brain flags it as the absolute truth. Fluidity is mistaken for reality. The smoother the lie, the tighter its grip on your reality. Psychologists still debate whether this internal storytelling mechanism evolved as a social defense strategy to help us justify our actions to the tribe, or if the phenomenon we call consciousness itself is nothing more than this very process, a retroactive illusion, a shadow cast by the physical machinery of the brain. Either way, the result is the same. You are constantly being fed a script you didn't write about a character you don't actually control. Maybe this is happening to you right now. You might be listening to these concepts and eagerly mapping these mental flaws onto someone else. A coworker, a difficult relative, an ex-partner. Your narrative machine is quietly whispering, yes, they certainly do that, don't they? Your brain is currently using the psychology of self-deception to protect your own ego, shifting the focus outward to ensure you don't have to face the uncomfortable truth about your own constructed reality. To break this cycle, you must starve the narrative machine. You have to practice radical incoherence. This means intentionally stopping the flow of excuses. When you catch yourself acting out of a hidden bias, a bad habit, or an emotional trigger, your brain will rush in to offer you a comfortable lie. Your job is to reject the lie and sit in the unbearable discomfort of the truth. You must learn to say, I just did this, and I have no good reason. Imagine the psychological tension of holding that thought. You skip the gym. The press secretary rushes to the podium. We are skipping the gym because our muscles need recovery time. You interrupt. You step up to the microphone and say, no, I am skipping the gym because I am giving in to momentary laziness. It feels awful. It goes against every instinct in your psychological software. Your brain will scream at you to restore coherence, to find a justification, to soften the blow. But in that exact moment of painful, unjustified reality, you are finally awake. You are no longer sleepwalking through a hallucinated script. By refusing to validate the impulse with a story, you sever the reward loop. The narrative machine runs on the fuel of self-deception. When you stop feeding it comfortable lies, the machine stalls. But shutting down your own excuses reveals a deeper, more unsettling layer of the problem. If you strip away the stories, you are left staring at the raw, unadulterated actions themselves. And you begin to realize that if your conscious mind isn't the one generating these impulses, something else is. You begin to notice the invisible constraints placed around you, the subtle cues in your environment that pull your strings without making a sound. You stop fighting the press secretary, and you look out into the world to find out who exactly is writing the policy. Once you stop listening to the internal press secretary, you begin to see that the podium you've been standing behind is bolted to the floor. You start to notice that the room you're in was designed by someone else. This is the third way to reclaim the sovereignty of your mind. You must deconstruct the invisible architecture of your choices. You like to believe that your values, the things you find important, the goals you strive for, are solid internal structures. You think you carry them with you like a compass. But the unsettling reality of behavioral science suggests that your values are often just reflections of the options presented to you. You aren't a compass. You are a liquid taking the shape of whatever vessel you are poured into. This is the power of choice architecture. Every environment you enter, whether physical or digital, has a design that nudges you towards specific behaviors. A mainstream psychological fact that illustrates this perfectly is the default effect. In countries where organ donation is an opt-out system, meaning you are a donor unless you check a box to say no consent rates are nearly 100%. In countries where it is opt-in, consent rates often hover around 15%. Do the citizens of these countries have fundamentally different moral values regarding the sanctity of the body or the duty to help others? No. They simply follow the path of least resistance. They stay with the default. Remember that false certainty from earlier, the feeling that you are a decisive actor. It vanishes when you realize how much of your life is lived on default settings. You use the apps that are on your home screen. You eat the food that is at eye level in the pantry. You adopt the political opinions of the 3 people you spend the most time with. Your brain is a cognitive miser. It wants to save energy at all costs. Checking a box, moving a cereal brand, or questioning a social norm requires System 2 to wake up and burn precious glucose. Usually it refuses. It simply accepts the architecture as reality. But here is a surprising hidden behavior insight that most people overlook. Your willpower is not a moral character trait or a finite muscle you can train. In most cases, what we call willpower is actually just the absence of environmental friction. The person who successfully eats healthily usually isn't stronger than you. They have simply curated an environment where the default choice is the healthy one. They have removed the blue cereal box from their line of sight. They have made the bad decision require more steps than the good one. When you navigate the world, you are being nudged constantly by architects who do not have your best interests in mind. Social media interfaces are designed to maximize time on site, not your well-being. They utilize variable ratio reinforcement, the same psychological mechanism that makes slot machines addictive to keep you scrolling. You think you're looking for information, but you're actually just a laboratory rat pulling a lever for a hit of dopamine. Psychologists still debate whether true autonomy can exist in a world where every environment is inherently a set of nudges, or if we are merely shifting from one form of manipulation to another. Maybe this is happening to you right now. Consider the very platform you are using to watch this. The Up Next feature, the autoplay, the carefully curated recommendations, these are all pieces of choice architecture designed to keep you in a state of passive consumption. Even the like and subscribe buttons are psychological triggers tapping into your need for social validation and reciprocity. Your desire to continue watching isn't just a reflection of your interest. It's a result of a multi-billion-dollar architecture designed to make leaving feel like an act of high cognitive effort. To regain control, you must become the architect instead of the occupant. You have to stop trying to fight your impulses with raw willpower and start changing the map. If you want to spend less time on your phone, you don't try harder to put it down. You leave it in another room. You create friction. If you want to think more deeply, you don't just try to be smart. You remove the distractions that trigger System 1's preference for shallow, rapid-fire information. Remember the readiness potential we discussed earlier, that spike in brain activity that precedes your conscious will. That potential is often triggered by an external cue. You see the notification light, the brain prepares the movement, and then you decide to check. By controlling the cues, you control the readiness potential. You stop the fire before the spark is even struck. This is the uncomfortable truth behind human behavior. We are incredibly easy to program. We are sensitive to the smallest changes in our peripheral vision, the slightest shifts in the framing of a question, the subtle anchoring of a price tag. Most of what you think of as your personality is actually just a collection of habitual responses to a recurring environment. If you were moved to a completely different culture with different architecture tomorrow, a large portion of you would evaporate within weeks, replaced by new defaults and new nudges. The tension here lies in the realization that there is no neutral environment. Every room has a layout, every app has a flow, every conversation has a frame. You are always being nudged. The question is no longer how do I be free of influence, because that is a biological impossibility. The question is who is doing the nudging and can I take the pen back? As you sit there, perhaps hearing the hum of the fan or the distant sound of traffic, look around your immediate space. Every object you see is a nudge. Every open tab on your screen is a piece of architecture. You have been a guest in your own life for a long time following the hallway someone else built, but the hallway doesn't have to go where it's currently pointing. You can move the walls. You can change the defaults, but only if you're willing to exert the one thing your brain hates more than anything else: deliberate, slow, and agonizingly focused effort. If you have followed me this far, you have already begun to exert the very thing your brain has spent a lifetime trying to avoid: intentional cognitive friction. By listening to these concepts, by resisting the urge to click away for a simpler distraction, you are forcing your System 2 to stay awake. This is the fourth and perhaps most difficult way to regain control. You must stop seeking clarity and start embracing the strain. You must learn to treat cognitive effort not as a burden to be minimized, but as a weapon to be wielded. Your brain is a masterpiece of efficiency, which is a polite way of saying it is evolutionarily designed to be lazy. It craves cognitive ease, that warm, fuzzy feeling where everything seems familiar, easy to process, and inherently true. When you are in a state of ease, you are gullible. You trust your first impressions. You accept the left brain interpreter's lies without question. You walk down the hallway of the choice architecture without noticing the walls. To reclaim your mind, you must move from a state of ease into a state of cognitive strain. A mainstream psychological fact that most people ignore is that thinking deeply is a physical act. When you engage System 2, when you really lean into a complex problem or try to inhibit a powerful impulse, your body reacts. Your pupils dilate, your heart rate increases slightly, and your brain begins to consume glucose at a significantly higher rate. This is why you feel mentally exhausted after an hour of intense focus, even if you haven't moved a muscle. Your brain hates this feeling. It perceives this physiological cost as a signal to stop, to return to the safety of System 1's effortless automation. Maybe this is happening to you right now. You might feel a slight tension in your forehead, a quiet urge to shift your posture, or a wandering thought about what you'll do once this video ends. That is your brain trying to escape the friction. It wants to go back to sleep. But here is the surprising hidden behavior insight. When you are in a state of cognitive strain, you are actually more accurate, more skeptical, and less prone to the very biases we've been discussing. Researchers have found that if you present a logical puzzle in a font that is slightly blurred or difficult to read, creating disfluency, people are significantly less likely to fall for the intuitive, incorrect answer. The mere act of struggling to read the words forces the brain to wake up System 2. The friction of the font disrupts the user illusion. It creates a tiny gap where the machinery can be inspected. If you want to regain control, you must learn to create this disfluency in your own life. You must intentionally make your impulses harder to follow and your justifications harder to believe. Remember that false certainty from earlier, the belief that you are the one deciding. That certainty thrives in the light of ease. To destroy it, you must invite the shadow of effort. This means adopting what we call slow thinking. It means that when you feel an impulse, whether it's to buy something to argue with someone or to form a snap judgment about a complex global event, you don't just think about it. You perform a mental pre-mortem. You force yourself to sit in silence for 10 minutes, documenting all the ways your current certainty could be a hallucination created by your inner press secretary. You introduce friction into the decision-making process until the readiness potential of the impulse has no choice but to wither away. Psychologists still debate whether willpower is a finite biological resource that can be depleted, a concept known as ego depletion, or if it is merely a self-fulfilling belief where we only lose control because we expect to. If it is a resource, then you must spend it wisely on the things that actually matter. If it is a belief, then the only thing holding you back is the story you tell yourself about your own limitations. In either case, the solution remains the same. You must stop letting your brain run on autopilot. To reclaim sovereignty, you must become a master of cognitive investment. Most people spend their mental energy on things they cannot control while letting their own internal processes go unmonitored. They worry about the architecture built by others while leaving their own blueprints in the dirt. Reclaiming control means choosing where to place the friction. It means being the one who decides when to turn on the fan for background hum and when to sit in the deafening silence of a difficult question. You must realize that the you think you know, the one who is deciding to finish this video, is only a small flickering flame atop a massive dark ocean of unconscious machinery. You cannot control the ocean. You cannot stop the waves of bias, the tides of biological impulse, or the currents of social manipulation. But by introducing intentional friction, you can, for a few moments at a time, hold the rudder. You can choose to look at the machinery and say, "I see you." This is not a permanent state. You cannot live in System 2 indefinitely. You would burn out within hours. But control is not about being a robot of pure logic. It is about having the power to intervene when the stakes are high. It is about knowing that the hallway exists and having the strength to occasionally open a door that wasn't on the map. It is about recognizing that every choice you make is a battle between a fast-lying machine and a slow, tired observer. And for the first time, you have the tools to help the observer win. The mind is not always your ally. As the hum of the world begins to settle and the weight of these realizations sinks into the quiet spaces of your thoughts, take a moment to simply breathe. You can feel the slow rhythm of your lungs, a process that continues whether you think of it or not, a reminder of the vast systems operating beneath your awareness. We spend our lives convinced that we are the masters of our own house, only to discover that we are merely guests who have forgotten how we arrived. The architecture of your mind was built by evolution to ensure your survival, not your clarity. It values speed over truth and coherence over reality. Sometimes the greatest illusion is believing you were ever fully in control. It is a haunting realization, the idea that our most intimate thoughts might be the products of a ghost in the machine, weaving stories out of shadows to keep us from noticing the strings. But there is a strange dark peace in this surrender. By acknowledging the limits of your agency, you are finally free to see the world as it truly is, a complex web of nudges, biases, and biological imperatives. You no longer have to carry the burden of being a perfect rational actor. You can simply be the observer, the one who notices the readiness potential, the one who hears the press secretary's lies and smiles at the ingenuity of the deception. The sovereignty you seek isn't found in total dominance over your impulses, but in the quiet, focused moments of friction. It is found in the delay. It is found in the breath between the urge and the action. As you step back into the world, carry this silence with you. Watch the cereal boxes, listen for the stories, and remember that the mind is a labyrinth, one where the exit is not found by running, but by standing perfectly still until the walls begin to fade. The greatest power you possess is not the ability to choose, but the courage to question why you think you've chosen it all.